Hello, my name is Joyce Harper and I'm Professor of Reproductive Science at the Institute for Women's Health at University College London. And I've been an educator and reproductive scientist for over 30 years. I have written a book called Your Fertile Years, which covers reproductive health from the menstrual cycle to the menopause. And I have a team that go to companies to educate everybody about reproductive health from the menstrual cycle, pregnancy, fertility, infertility, and the menopause. I think it's really important that everyone understands about menopause symptoms. Now, the menopause means that a woman has been for 1 year without having a period, and then she is post-menopause. The time before the menopause, so while she's going for that year without having a period, is called the perimenopause. And it's the perimenopause is the main time that women can get symptoms that can really impact their life. What people don't understand, often don't understand, is that women can have these symptoms in their late 30s and early 40s. And often when I've said to people, I think you're perimenopausal, they've said, oh, no, I'm too young, or my GP has said I'm too young. But it's really important to understand what these symptoms are and how they can affect you, and for people to understand that they could be menopausal symptoms. So it's been really great that in recent years, there's been some documentaries about the menopause, a number of people have written books, and there's been a lot of information and discussions in the media. But there's very little discussion, I feel, around these menopause symptoms and alerting women to these symptoms at a relatively early age. So I've done a lot of research around this topic. I have done a number of surveys to hear what women think about the menopause, how they are educated about it, what they know about it, and how they feel. And we have a paper coming out very soon that specifically looked at the perimenopausal women. And these are some quotes from those women, and they're really typical of the group. And I wanted to share them with you so you can see how important this is. We aren't informed enough. I'd never even heard the word perimenopause until I spoke to a nurse. I generally thought my menopause started when my period stopped. I've been having symptoms and suffering in silence for 2 years. I am astonished at the range of symptoms and the impact they had on me and how ill prepared I was. I had anxiety, lack of sex drive, fuzzy hands, memory loss, low confidence, brain fog, and so on. The fatigue I felt for years shocked me to the core. I was treated for anxiety and stress for a long time until I went back to complain about severe night sweats. And I was lucky that a youngish woman doctor was on the ball. I had blood tests that confirmed. I had HRT patches and coil within 3 months, felt nearly myself again. I had very little idea of the range of symptoms of the perimenopause. I knew about hot flushes and I didn't have those, so couldn't work out what was happening to me. I honestly thought I was going mad. I also really struggled to get help from my GP. 2 male GPs dismissed my symptoms and said it was a phase every woman goes through. The lack of information is shocking. I didn't know the symptoms, so didn't join the dots until I spoke to a friend. We are both nurses and we didn't know. My husband didn't have a clue either. Bit of an awkward conversation, made me feel washed up and past it when he's just fine. Feels very unfair. No one speaks about the impact on your sex life, and these issues have nearly caused me and my husband to separate. I don't want women to be saying this. I want them to be totally aware. With education, none of them would have said this. They would have understood, if they knew this when they were in their 20s and 30s, they would have understood these symptoms, that they could have been perimenopausal as soon as they started to happen, and they could have accommodated them. So these short-term symptoms are ones that should stop when you are postmenopause. They don't always, and some women have issues, but they should stop. And I'm going to go through each of these. So we've got menstruation changes, vasomotor symptoms, genitourinal symptoms, sexual difficulties, mood adversity and psychological symptoms, joint and muscle pain, and gaining weight. Then we've got the long-term symptoms, which we really have to think about and treat. And I'll again go through each of these. We've got osteoporosis, cardiovascular disease, urinary incontinence, pelvic organ prolapse, and Alzheimer's and dementia. So let's look at these one by one. So menstruation changes. Our periods will change for sure. This will happen to everybody. We would have normally had a menstrual cycle between 21 and 35 days, but our periods are going to stop with the menopause. That is absolutely the definition of the menopause. You've gone for 1 year with no more periods. So these periods will sometimes get closer together, sometimes get further apart. They can get heavier or lighter. I know so many women, too many women, who are having incredibly heavy periods and long periods, and they are just suffering in silence. So please, please don't suffer in silence. So they can get longer, shorter, more painful, and you can get more premenstrual syndrome. And this is happening because our hormones are going to stop. And how to deal with it? We need to be prepared. We need to make sure we've got sanitary protection with us at any time, period products with us. You might want to use a period tracker app. Lots of young people use this. I've done a lot of research around period tracker apps. Chances are if you don't write it down, or you might not find it in your diary of when you last had a period, with the period tracker app, many of them are free. You can download them and put in when you've had your period. Then not worry about it. Next time, put that in. And then you can see and easily monitor the changes in your periods. You may need time off work. This is why it's so important for employers to be fully aware what's happening with these menstrual cycle changes. And please, please, I've written this on, I think, on every slide, see your doctor for heavy and painful periods. We should not be suffering in silence. Now, there are various treatments. The most common one is the Mirena coil, but please see your doctor if this is affecting you in any way. You should not suffer in silence. So the vasomotor symptoms are what we call the hot flushes, or they call it flashes in the US, or the night sweats. And this is something that historically, I think people have always assumed that this was one of the main effects of the menopause. But I'm going to show you some of the results from our survey that this was not the main effect that over 3,000 women in our survey told us about. So these flushes or night sweats are a spontaneous sensation of warmth. They can last for up to 30 minutes. You can also get heart palpitations and anxiety with them, and they can significantly affect sleep and quality of life. They can also be caused by non-menopausal reasons. So again, if they are worrying you, please go to your doctor and get them checked. And they're mainly attributed to the lower estrogen. So how to deal with it? Reduce stress and alcohol. And on quite a few of my slides, you're going to see me talk about alcohol, improved nutrition, exercise, and well-being. And these are really important. Our well-being is really important to helping us with some of the menopause symptoms. Now, I'm sure you know that when you drink alcohol, we often get hot and flushed. So this can really make a hot flush even worse. And alcohol affects our sleep. And so this leads to a complicated situation. Obvious things such as cool clothes, a fan, and sit by the window. But it's really important that colleagues are aware, friends and family are aware of all of these symptoms that you could get. But they need to be aware in case you get very hot and flustered all of a sudden. And again, see your doctor. There are some medications that can help with this if they're influencing your life in a really negative way. Now, the genitourinal symptoms, these include vaginal dryness, vaginal narrowing, itchy vulva and vagina, atrophy of the vulva, urinary prolapse, and urinary incontinence. And it can cause irritation, increased risk of urinary tract infections. I know so many of my friends that say, oh, I've got another UTI, another UTI. I never used to get them. It's perimenopause, and difficulties and pain during sex. So you'll see that the effects on our sex and relationships come up in quite a few of these symptoms. So that can be really tricky for your partner, for you and your partner, where there are several symptoms here that can be influencing your sex life, which is sometimes misconstrued as an end of a relationship. And I do worry how many relationships ended because of the menopause, when they didn't really need to. So the reasons this occurs, again, lower estrogen, and estrogen keeps the genitals moist. So this could be a problem. And again, see your doctor, ideally be referred to a gynecologist. I know a number of women that have had complications of this area, and their GPs try to deal with it, and it's gone on for years. So please ask them to go and see a specialist. Your GP is not unlikely to be a specialist in this field. So go to see a gynecologist. There are lots of treatment options. One of the most simplest is a pessary that can be administered and can really help with the moisture around the vulva and vagina. So these symptoms you saw on the previous slide can also cause sexual difficulties, and sexual difficulties are very common. There's the difficulties and pain during sex, but also it can be a psychological problem, a reduced sexual desire, which again, it's not that you don't love your partner anymore, you don't want to have intercourse with your partner, it's just your hormones are doing lots of crazy things and changing every day. Remember our kids that go through puberty, all these things are being awakened in them. And for women going through the menopause, it can have the opposite effect. So the reason it occurs is lack of estrogen. There's a lot of discussions around testosterone. I'm not going to get into that now. And as I said, the effects of the genitourinary symptoms can lead to problems during sex. Again, how to deal with it? Same thing, see your doctor. Again, ideally be referred to a gynecologist. They will be the experts to really work out the best treatment option for you. Now, mood adversity and psychological symptoms, these are really important. And you'll see when I show you in my survey what women thought about, how often they had symptoms. And this really were the top symptoms. Some of them are similar to premenstrual syndrome, but some of them are new symptoms that they might not have had before. And there's a long list. So mood swings, irritability, depression, anger. I heard someone say the other day, so someone in our survey had said, I just keep shouting at strangers. I've never shouted at strangers. I don't know why. I now understand why boys going through puberty get so angry. It's hormones. Anxiety, inexplicable emotions, sadness, increased stress, lack of energy, lack of motivation, decreased patience, concentration problems, brain fog, a decrease in memory affecting the recall of words and numbers, disruptions to everyday behavior, losing items, forgetting appointments. Now, that's a long list, and there are more. That's a short list of the many symptoms that they can be. So this really, really affects relationships with everybody, home life, friendships, work environment. It can affect your job. You're not motivated to do your job. I think before we used to call it a midlife crisis. And I know we think we feel men have midlife crisis too. But we can have a real reason for having a midlife crisis and feeling we don't like our life and we don't like anything. The one saving grace, hopefully, is that hopefully these symptoms stop when you are postmenopausal. I think that one of the main problems is that your hormones are all over the place. They're up one day, down the next day. And this roller coaster of hormones, as we see in puberty, can really cause your mood to be all over the place. So it's these fluctuations of estrogen and progesterone are interfering with the amount of serotonin in the brain, as I've said, similar to puberty. Again, how to deal with it: reduce stress, reduce alcohol, improve nutrition, exercise, and well-being. Look at our work-life balance, find ways to relax. Mindfulness is really up there with relaxing, meditation, etc. And being sure that family, friends, and colleagues, again, understand what we're going through. And again, see your doctor. This, I think, is an area where many women tell me that they were treated with antidepressants, which is not the right treatment for menopausal psychological symptoms. So joint and muscle pain, when we age, we obviously will get more joint and muscle pain. I can remember having joint and muscle pain when I was going through the menopause, and I don't have it now. So this is a short-term symptom for most people. So if we get aches, pain, warmth, stiffness, swelling of a joint, can affect hips, hands, fingers, and knees the most, and can also affect the back. And again, I find women feeling frustrated that they can't do what they needed to do. But again, for many, these symptoms will ease off once they are postmenopausal. And the reason it occurs, estrogen can reduce inflammation. And if we haven't got estrogen, we'll get more inflammation. So how to deal with it? Exercising is important. Exercising is so important, and especially important post-menopause and all times of our life. And while we're going through the menopause, we may not feel like exercising, but to do something you're feeling comfortable with, that's not causing you pain, is really great. You know, walking, cycling, swimming, keep moving. The view is now that you should keep moving, and we should not stop and rest. Before, if you had an ache and pain, they said stop and rest, and now the view is that we should always keep moving and try and have a healthy weight. And again, if you're worried, see your doctor. Gaining weight, something I've struggled with my whole life. Is it aging or the menopause? It's very, very difficult to reduce. I, again, met so many women who said, I've tried everything, I'm cut down what I'm eating, I'm just not losing weight. There is a metabolic syndrome, which is weight gain and high blood pressure, cholesterol, and blood sugar. So again, if you're worried about that, please see your doctor. And there can be an increased risk of cardiovascular disease and diabetes if you're overweight. So some of this is aging. I'm sure you know that men put on weight as well and find it difficult to lose weight. I think sometimes we try to blame everything on the menopause. We should understand how much of this is menopausal and how much is aging, but there's not been enough research. Maybe estrogen lowers the metabolic rate. Again, how to deal with it: exercise, movement, and nutrition. So let's now move on to the long-term symptoms. So as I've said, the good news is that hopefully if you have those short-term symptoms, they should go. Women will get different symptoms. Every one of us is different. We are all individual. Some will sail through and not have any symptoms, or very few that they can cope with. Some will need medical help. And the important message today is, do not suffer in silence. If you feel this is influencing your life, please, please, please go and get medical help. But let's look at the long-term symptoms. These are really serious. We've got osteoporosis, which is porous bones that easily fracture. And 80% of people with osteoporosis are women. 50% of women over 50 have an osteoporosis related fracture. So our bones are strongest, unfortunately, when we're 30, and they start going down then and lose bone density. So it's really important to look after our well-being and reduce smoking, alcohol, caffeine, salty foods, phosphorus, and increase our calcium, and do weight-bearing exercises. So weightlifting, something like body pump or traditional weightlifting, is really good to help our bones stay strong. It can be diagnosed with a bone density test, and there are various treatment options. Again, see your doctor. Cardiovascular disease, it's the main cause of death globally, the leading cause of death in women over 50. And I think most of us feel this is a men's disease, and it's really not. And it's caused by narrowing or blocked heart blood vessels, and can lead to a heart attack, a stroke, or angina, which is chest pain caused by a lack of blood to the heart muscles. So again, looking after our health and our well-being is absolutely key. And there's various ways to diagnose it and various treatments. But I think it's really important for women to understand about cardiovascular disease, because we often relate it to men. Urinary incontinence, it affects 1 in 3 women. There's stress incontinence, which occurs during coughing, laughing, exercise, and sneezing, and urgency urinary incontinence, which is when there is a sudden urge to urinate, often meaning that the person cannot reach the toilet in time. Again, Healthy diet and weight and exercise may help. Diagnosis is obvious. We have problems, but there are various treatments, and there are pants and products now that can be used to help absorb this urine. But it is a worry for women for sure. But great now that it's sort of being talked about a lot more in the public. Pelvic organ prolapse. Our pelvic organs are held in place by ligaments, muscles, and skin, and they can become loose. So either our womb, bladder, or bowel can prolapse out, and this would be incredibly painful. There is some controversy about the vaginal mesh. Again, I won't get into that now. Again, healthy weight, reduce smoking, and increase our exercise. It would be diagnosed with a vaginal exam, and there are various treatments, but it's a tricky one for sure. And then Alzheimer's disease and dementia. So dementia is a decline in brain activity, memory loss, and difficulties with thinking and problem solving. And it's caused when the brain is damaged by diseases such as Alzheimer's or a series of strokes. And as we get older, this is more likely. So this is why dementia and Alzheimer's are more of a problem as we age. Alzheimer's patients have clumps of damaged proteins called plaques in their brain, and Alzheimer's disease and dementia affects women more than men and has a more profound effect in women. So some people have said it's menopausal. The treatment, there's very little. Does HRT protect? Well, there's conflicting data. I have kept up to date with this. I have Alzheimer's in my family, and if I thought there was something I could do to prevent it, I certainly would. So it's early stages. We should have had research on this for decades, and we should be further along in our understanding of this. But Alzheimer's and dementia do affect men. So again, it's not as simple as just being due to the menopause. So this is a very busy graph. Don't try to read it. There's just too much on it. But we asked the women in our survey about the symptoms they had and what were the most common. And if we look at these, this is the top ones in order: irritability, poor concentration, poor memory, brain fog, low mood, mood swings, lack of motivation, reduced confidence, anxiety, fatigue, problems sleeping. And hot flushes and night sweats came after all of those. So don't just think that perimenopausal symptoms are hot flushes and night sweats. Please don't. It's these psychological symptoms that women are reporting as the most common. So in conclusion, I please ask everybody, do not suffer in silence. Please seek medical advice. There are some options for you that can hopefully help you through this situation. Please look after your well-being. And I always say balance your 4 pillars of well-being: nutrition, exercise, sleep, and your mental health. I'm an ambassador for This Girl Can, which is trying to get UK women and girls to exercise more, because we exercise less than men in every country. So it's really important. And I keep hearing women say, but I'm too busy, I don't have the time. And I know motivation's hard, but please, it's really important. It's our wake-up call in our 40s and 50s. We are in midlife. And if we want to stay fit and healthy for the rest of our lives, we really have to look after these 4 pillars of well-being. Explain to our families and friends what we are going through, and hopefully they will understand and be sympathetic, and hopefully it will lead to a more harmonious work-life balance. And ask your employers to get training and to have a menopause policy. This is really important, and lots more workplaces are doing this, and this is one of the reasons why we are going into the workplace to talk about all these key issues. So if you did want us to come into your company, then please get in contact. Here's my contact details, and our email is reprohealthatwork@yahoo.com. And we've got a bit more information of the program we offer on my website. So I really hope you found that useful. I'd love to hear any comments or thoughts, and please look out on social media for our research as we publish this. I will put it out on social media. We've also done a survey of women under 40 to ask them how they feel about the menopause. We are specifically doing a survey that we'll be marketing to Black women. Most people filling in surveys are highly educated white people, so we want to really make sure we hear the narratives from everybody. And I've also just launched a survey asking women that cold water swim if they feel that swimming has helped their menstrual and menopause symptoms. So thank you very much, and I look forward to hearing of any of your comments. And I really hope this video has been useful. Thank you.